All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Raul Avila, once again with the great co-host that I have, Pastor Nate Kahn. How you doing today, Pastor Nate?
It's a good day.
Having a great day today?
It's amazing.
Great week?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome. This is Father's Voice, guys, a podcast dedicated to empowering men to embody essential qualities and values in the roles of father, husband, provider, and man of God. In each of these episodes, we will chase greatness, drawing inspiration from timeless wisdom of the Bible and personal experiences from many of our guests. And we're confident you're going to love this. So please make sure you share. If you get a lot of value out of this, subscribe, comment, like, and let's get started, Pastor Nate.
Yeah, so today's a great day. We have an amazing guest, somebody who's going to be extremely engaging. This is this is going to be a lot of fun. So today we have a Coachella Valley legend by the name of Jeff Gonzalez. I'm going to read through a little bit of his bio, and then we're going to go back and forth to figure out a little bit more about who he is. So I'm reading from his website for Congress, for Assembly. He's running for California State Assembly. I think it's District 31. Is it 31?
36.
36. I was close, in the 30s. So let's do this. So Jeff Gonzalez is a combat veteran, small business owner, pastor, community leader, and father. He's running for state assembly to fix California's growing problems and ensure everyone has more opportunity for affordable housing, as well as quality of life that we all deserve. First-generation Americans, Jeff's dream was to serve our country. After graduating high school, Jeff enlisted in the United States Marine Corps.
Hoorah!
Hoorah! So to anybody out there that's a Marine Corps vet, you'll understand. His service took him overseas to combat zones in Iraq, Afghanistan, completed multiple missions protecting U.S. embassies in Honduras and the Czech Republic. So briefly, because I was raised in a family of Marines, my oldest son is a Marine as well. Give us a little bit of your Marine Corps background. How many years did you serve?
I served 21 years in the Marine Corps.
21 years.
21 years in the Marine Corps, 4 combat tours, 2 to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan. I've been to Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand. I've been to Europe, Africa, Central America, floated in the water for a long time. But yeah, traveled throughout the world.
And your MOS, as far as what did you do in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I started off as a radio operator.
There you go.
Back in the day, we were called the 2531. I put a radio
antenna on your back?
Antenna on my back.
Target?
And yeah, instant target. And then moved on to different types of communication, network communication, terrestrial communication. We got a chance to talk to aliens. But we can't talk about that here.
No.
That's Area 50 something.
Top
right?
secret.
Top secret. We can't talk about that. And then I got recruited into the counterterrorism side of the Marine Corps, and I finished out my career there doing that. Yeah.
Let me ask you, going back to what time you spent in Afghanistan and Iraq, were those combat tours?
Those were.
So
Yep.
It's while things were sort of going rough out, whether by Afghanistan or Iraq, both places were.
Absolutely. Yeah, they send me to all the garden spots, Iraq, Afghanistan. I mean, the people were great, other than the ones that, you
Didn't
shoot
like
at you. But the regular folks that are in the community, they'll love on you, they'll feed you. They were just amazing.
So were you ever in situations where you were in firefights and things like that, or were you just...
That's war.
That's war.
That's war.
So both Iraq and Afghanistan, that was...
Exactly.
Wow.
Rocketed, IEDs, the whole 9 yards.
So being a radio guy, you weren't hiding on a base, you were actually out there with the grunts?
Well, when I went to war, I had already been recruited onto the counterterrorism teams. So I wasn't a radio operator. I was a counterterrorism guy. So I didn't have a radio on my back. I just kind of patrolled with the infantry guys and did my business.
Ooh.
I could tell you more, but that would be a...
Yeah.
I'd have to kill you, national secrets,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards. And I obviously don't want anything to happen to you guys.
Well, there have been some politicians who claim they went to combat and actually didn't. So I'm trying to really verify that he actually did.
I've actually been to combat. I've got the shirt and
the medals to prove it.
the medals, the shirt, the sweat, blood and tears, and the disabled veteran to prove it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question about that because in your bio, it also talks about how you had 10 friends that committed suicide in the middle because of the military. It wasn't during; it was after. Is it because of like PTSD or?
Yeah, it was during.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So actually, while deployed, these guys.
Well, let me rephrase that. While in the military, they died by suicide.
Is that common? Does that happen a lot? Yeah.
Right now, they say approximately 22 service members take their life every single day. So
which is much higher than the average population.
That is much higher
Yeah.
than the average population. So if you can imagine right now, we're middle of the day, 11 have already died by suicide.
Wow.
11 dads
Yeah.
Dang.
are gone.
What would you say is the reason why? My brother's in the military, and every time I have a conversation with him, he seems totally cool, what's really going on in the
And is it probably specific to guys that are in combat? I mean, I would think that the rates are higher, but I don't know.
No, men, women in combat. Here's what I would say: as someone who almost took their life by suicide, we're getting real here, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
We could do that. Is that allowed?
Oh, yeah.
Is that part of the
That
taglines? Be real, be dad. Right. As someone,
I should add it to the tag.
As someone who struggled with thoughts of suicide and almost did that, right? I went down that road. I didn't put a gun to my head or anything like that. I was on the floor crying, and we could talk about that story. But and by the way, as a man of faith, as a pastor during that time, it just snuck up on me. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, and once it hits, it just takes you and it sucks you in. Thank God. Thank God for the thread of faith that I had in that moment that I clung on to, that saved my life. So, people say, hey, you'll be able to see it and you'll be able to understand, oh, that person's really going through it. Most of the guys that I know that died by suicide, I would have never seen it. Never seen it. And I would say 80% of them. The other ones, yes, you saw the decline, so on and so forth. But for the most part, you don't see it. So that happy-go-lucky, that, we say in the military, you're fighting the demons that you bring back with you. And it's a spiritual war. It really is. And it's an emotional, it's a mental, and it's a physical war that goes on. And because your brain changes from war, you have to learn to adapt to those different things. And when you have faith, you thank God for it, like literally. It's not like I say it flippantly, like, oh, thank God. I thank God for that moment of clarity where I could reach and grab that thread of faith to save my life. And unfortunately, not everyone has that. But that's the story.
That's wild.
Yeah, I would like to get more in detail on that one.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Later on.
I mean,
You're like, oh yeah, we're
good.
gonna dig
Yeah.
deep now.
Well,
If we start crying, there's no tissues here, man.
yeah,
Tablecloth.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so the 10 friends. I'm just going to go into this because you mentioned specifically 10 friends. There are 10 friends that committed suicide. Do you think the combat situations, because you're talking about guys that served alongside you, so they're all seeing combat. Don't you? I mean, this is, I don't know the statistics on it, but did the 10 friends who passed away, had they all seen combat?
All of them had seen combat.
Yeah.
100% have seen combat.
And I don't know.
But that's not always the case.
Okay.
That's not always
So
the case.
there's many reasons why.
Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
okay, so generally speaking, what would you say is the most common reason? What's the most
Post-traumatic stress.
common? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
War is ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It brings out the worst in people. It brings out some of the ugliest things I've ever seen. And you see stuff that, you maybe you'd see in a movie, but it's a movie. You can distance yourself from the reality of that. But when it's in front of you, when you feel the splatter of someone's blood, that's how real it is. You can't get that away. The smell of it. You can't take that away. So it's a whole nother thing that we're just not taught how to process as regular folks, right?
My brother had told me, so my brother was in the Marine Corps as a door gunner. He had said that when they would do, he was doing specific things, and when he was a door gunner, he said when you would shoot somebody with a 50 cal and you'd watch them pop, he said he just like pink mist. He said that wasn't hard, but when he had to go on the ground and line up the dead bodies, he said that would cause you not to be able to sleep at night. So, it's one thing from a distance, and I know that, there's all various kinds of things of war, but he said there was years where he couldn't sleep just based off of that. So you're lining up all these dead bodies, and that's to process some of the things that you've done, that you've been a part of. And you always want to say like, "Oh, I'm right," or "I'm this," or whatever. And you might think you're doing it for all the right reasons, but it still has a very hard impact on people. And I think, as Jeff said, when people don't have faith, like he said, he hung on by a thread, but it was his faith.
Right.
And so then we have a world who's becoming less Christ-centered, or even in the United States, we're less Christian than we were, decades ago. Then to try to process through some of that and to sort of navigate that without faith, I don't know how a person does. And that's where I think it would be a hopeless situation. Although I'm sure the people that come through it without faith, I think the faith, just by having faith, it probably enhances your chances of making it by magnitudes.
Look, I'm going to tell you this, and for those dads that are watching right now and listening to this, whether you are a warrior on the battlefield of many different countries, in business, as a dad, as a husband, you are still in a battlefield. Mm-hmm. Let's put that out on the table. You're still in a battlefield.
Yep.
And in a battlefield, we talk about the full armor. In the military, we do what's known as buddy checks, right? A buddy check is before you go out into the outside the wire. Are these straps on tight? Is your weapon loaded? Good. Are you ready to go? Do you have your helmet on right? All these different pieces so that when we go to battle, we are prepared for what might come to us. So in this battle of being men and in this battle of being fathers, we go out into the battlefield unarmed, without a buddy, expecting the best to take place, yet we didn't do the basics to prepare for that battle.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
I would say, as we're processing this interview today, there's a couple things and a couple points that I'd want to bring out as a battlefield warrior, as a dad warrior, as a husband warrior, as a businessman warrior. You cannot start your day without putting on your armor. Number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, you cannot go into battle without a buddy check, because if you do, you will get shot. And it might not be the physical bullet, but it will be the temptation. It will be the mental. It will be the physical. It will be the spiritual. Yeah. You will get shot. And some of us might not feel it, but you will eventually die by 1,000 paper cuts.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So good.
Wow.
That's well said. Yeah.
And we also have...
Sorry, we're still on the bio, right?
That's good.
Yeah, we're still on the bio. That's good.
You're going to get me preaching.
Now I know. Now I could see you're really a preacher. So Jeff Gonzalez also is married to Christine, and he has a family of 4 children: RJ, Lexi, Zach, and Mike. And I saw the picture of your family. It's a beautiful family.
For
Great
sure.
Pictures.
Thank you. They make me look good. I always say I got a face for radio, but we're on video also. So sorry.
Yeah.
I have
blended family, correct?
I have blended family. So when I married my wife, she had 3 kids. The 3 oldest: RJ, Lexi, and Zach. RJ is now 31. Zach is 23. Lexi is 28. I don't call them my stepkids because I raised them, or my wife did when I was away. But we raised them, and the only steps we have in the house are the ones they vacuum.
Exactly.
So they are mine by the blood of Jesus.
Can I highlight one thing? So if we're looking at a picture of his beautiful family, he also has one special needs son. Can you talk a little about him?
So RJ is 31. He has cerebral palsy with spastic quadriplegia. So what that means is he doesn't have the ability to use his legs, his hands, doesn't communicate like you and I. In other words, he uses sounds, whatever sound comes to him, and he eats through his stomach. He's completely dependent on care. So that means every 2 hours he's got to be rolled 24 hours a day.
Wow.
Now some people are like, "Oh my gosh, how do you go into a family and immediately do that?" I was never married before, so that's all I know. So I don't know what hard is in this situation when this is what God blessed me with. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, that's unconditional love, I would say.
Absolutely.
I mean,
if Jesus can love me, I can certainly love my family.
And he's rolling you over and babying you more than every 2 hours.
Every second of the day, he's rolling me over, right? Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point.
Wow, that's awesome. So what a beautiful story, what a beautiful family. Let me go back to one other thing, and we'll get into the family here in a second. So also in your bio, you are a pastor. Do you want to share anything about that sort of calling briefly, succinctly?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I went into being a pastor was because, number one, I sensed a calling, but number two, as a warrior, We want to help. We want to protect. And the only way I knew to do that was through my faith, because that's what got me through it. So I said, I got people dying all over me. The only thing that's kept me alive, the most powerful weapon I have in my armament, in my armory, is Jesus. So I need to give that to people so that way they can live. Mm-hmm. So that's how I became, went into being a pastor. Was I had to arm my troops with the gospel.
And so was it Rick Warren? Is that correct?
I went to work for Saddleback Church, Pastor Rick Warren, and I eventually, helped launch some churches, and then launched Saddleback San Diego, where I became the founding campus pastor there. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went to be an executive pastor at a church that had about 10 campuses. Mm-hmm. And now I just say I'm a missionary. Come on. I'm a missionary, and if God sees it, then I'll go to Sacramento to be a missionary.
We believe that's going to happen.
Yeah. That's good. Ian Weeks was talking about that too, huh?
For sure. He stole that from me. Ian, I know you're watching right now. You stole that line from me. Just kidding. We're good friends.
That's fun. Yeah. Wow.
But we're really on the campaign trail, and it's this iron sharpening iron, this buddy check. We do that. That's not like something I say like, hey, this is a good point. Write that down on your notebook. We buddy check each other. Hey, bud, what's going on? How you doing?
That's good.
How's your wife? How's your kids? What's going on? How
Buddy
you feeling?
check.
And let me tell you something. Spiritual warfare, I've never felt spiritual warfare so strong outside of war. And that's happening right now. And it is you got to be
intense.
Ready. You got to be ready.
All right, so we've done the bio briefly. Let's go back into a little bit of his history for a moment. So Jeff, if you can give us a little bit of a little bit about your father, and if you have a story maybe that sort of symbolizes who your father was, especially as a child, so pre-10-year-old, 9-year-old, sort of like as a child. Can you tell us a little about your father, how you were raised, and give us a story that maybe conveys who your father was?
Yeah, absolutely. We lived in the woods, and he was a wolf. And no, I'm just kidding. We lived in the jungle, and there's a story about it. My dad came to the United States when he was 19. What's that?
From Mexico?
From Mexico.
Okay.
He lived where he grew up in Tuxtepec, Oaxaca, Mexico.
Come on.
Yeah.
So you habla español too?
Hablo español, yeah.
Bien.
But my Spanish is half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, because my mom is Puerto Rican. So sometimes I'll go one way, go the
all
other
messed
way.
Up.
I'm all messed up, but I eat good. So my dad came here. He was 19. Eventually, about a couple years later, met my mom. They got married. They've been married this year makes 59 years.
Oh, my gosh.
So I have a great, a great example of what marriage looked like. My wife, same thing with her dad and mom. They've been married 56 years. So he came to the United States, and what I can tell you about my father, especially in the early years, was he was up early and back late.
Hardworking man.
Hardworking. He would do anything to take care of his family.
That's good.
That's a fact. There's nobody that can ever question that. He got up, he went to work, didn't make any excuses. And trust me, as a dad now, I look at him, how do I do this? How did my dad do this? Mm-hmm. But he set the example. He put the stones in the road to remind us to say, okay, this is how we work hard. This is how you work hard for your family. This is how you protect your family. These are the things how you model behavior. So I look back at my time as a young man, and what I remember of my dad was he was a hard worker. So much so that at 11 years old, I told my brother, who was 14 at the time, I said, Dad works a lot. And my brother was like, yeah, he does. I said, I guess we got to go to work. And he said, what? I was like, look, I can't work. You can. You're 14. I'm 11. You can go on a paper route. I'll do half. You'll do half. We'll split the money. We'll call it a day. So I've been working since I was 11 years old.
That's good.
Not because, hey, I wanted things. It's just the example that my dad set before us. You work hard for your family.
Where were you raised at? Was it in the Coachella Valley or somewhere else?
I was raised in a little town called Sunnymead, which is now called Moreno Valley.
Yep.
So about an hour away.
Mobile.
That's where I was. I say I was raised there. Towards the end of my high school years, we moved to New York, but I was raised in the Inland Empire.
Got it. So from Moval, so Inland Empire. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Good dad, hardworking dad, great example.
Hardworking dad. I would always see him. He'd leave in his bedroom, and in the hallway there was this cross made of wood, like a branch of wood. Not like, a refined wood, a branch of wood. And he would stop there. I was raised Catholic, so he would do the sign of the cross, and then he would pray, and then he'd go off to work every morning. That's what he would do. So that was my example of faith.
Mm-hmm. So as a teenager, stepping sort of into your teenage experiences, how was your relationship with your father? Always the perfect kid, I'm sure you were. Or what was it like as a teenager being raised by your father?
As a symbol of perfection,
you would walk on water every other day.
I'd walk on water. In my teenage years, the company that my dad worked for asked him to move to New York. So for several years, he was in New York, and he would travel to New York, stay there for a couple weeks, and come back. Wow. So that relationship, when he'd come home, Dad's back, and we'd get back into it for a weekend, and then he'd be gone again. And then we eventually moved to New York. But that's what I saw. So my mother had to kind of step in the primary role to do that. And she'd say, just wait till your dad gets back.
So where did you live during this time?
During that time, it was in Sunnymead during that time.
Merino Valley.
So your
Valley.
dad would leave to New York for what? How long?
2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks, come back for a weekend, gone for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then come back again for several years. I think it was like 3 years he did that for. And then eventually we moved out there.
Are your parents still alive?
They are. They're still alive.
Married still?
I'm still married, 58
cool.
years.
Wow. A long time married. Whew.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Nice. And so were you, the example that you got from your dad was hard work. What else would you say that you picked up from your dad and you have a busy schedule. I mean, it says right here you run 3 businesses as well. I mean, dang.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a busy schedule. I picked up my leadership, entrepreneurial spirit from my dad. I picked up to be a man of faith, a man of character. I picked up a lot of my qualities, my standout male qualities from my dad. And I picked up a lot of empathy from my mom, but my dad was like, this is how we're going to do it. This is the way it's done. And, as a kid, you don't want the boundaries, but when he was there was boundaries and you didn't cross them.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Okay. So you graduate high school and you go straight to the Marines, or did you go to college or?
I graduated high school. I went to community college. My first semester in community college, I'm like, yes, I'm out of high school. It's party time. And then I'm walking through the quad from the lunchroom, the cafeteria, and this Marine is in the corner, and he says, you couldn't do this anyways. As I'm walking past, and I'm like, pardon me? And he says,
that was his hi?
That was his hello.
That's his invitation, really.
Wow.
He said, you couldn't do this anyways. And, I was pretty buff. I was about 99 pounds soaking wet with change in my pockets. And I looked at him. I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, you couldn't do this anyways. And I said, what is this? What are you talking about? And he said, the Marines. You couldn't do this anyways. So I showed him. I signed my name on the dotted line. Oh, he got me. He got me good.
Wow.
And
is that still a good recruiting line nowadays?
Well, for some people it might be.
For young men with too much testosterone, it for sure is.
Well, first he got me with the hard of hearing piece, and then he got me with you couldn't do this anyways. And I knew I wasn't this buff figure, but at the same token, I also wanted a challenge.
Yeah.
As men, we always look for the challenge. There's this book. It talks about how we want to look for a challenge, we want to save the damsel, and we want to be respected. So for me, it was, now I'm coming into my own as a man, and here's the challenge, right? And here's the respect that I can earn on my own. So I joined the Marine Corps, and it led me to 21 years of a self-centered to a selfless leader, to a servant leader.
Well said.
Is that what the Marines preach?
Absolutely. One of the things, and you could probably look it up, Simon Sinek talks about this because he interviewed a whole bunch of Marines, and he says, leaders eat last.
Yeah.
In the Marine Corps, if you get in line to eat, the one with the lowest rank is at the front of the line. The one with the highest rank is at the end of the line.
Interesting.
And you might not get food at the end of the line, but that's okay because leaders eat last. You take care of your people. What that said to me, as not only as a leader, but as a dad, it says, you take care of your family first. You put in the work first. It's not about you.
Yep.
You serve your family so that they can serve others.
Yeah, that's a great lesson.
Yeah.
I love that. I have a friend that we had a potluck at our house, and he was just standing there. I'm like, hey, bro, because I'm thinking I wasn't in the Marine, but I like that. I like everybody eat first and I'll eat at the end. But he was standing there with me, and I said, bro, get a plate. And he goes, no, I eat last all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, I remember.
Yeah.
He mentioned that he's a Marine.
And culturally, if you look at, culturally in my background, in a Hispanic family, the mom will eat last. The dad might eat first unless there's company.
Yeah.
And then the dad will eat last, right? So I've always been around that, but it's something that I've always tried to keep in the back of my mind is leaders eat last.
Cool.
Be a servant leader. Take care of your people.
So when you joined the military, did your parents, were they against it? What did they say? Because I know in my family, my parents were very against Mane, my brother. Shout out to Mane.
Mane, what up?
What up, Mane? To go to the military. What kind of
my mom said,
yours?
no, you are not doing this. And my dad was, okay, serve your country. It's done great for our family. Go do that. But at the same time, skeptical. My mom said, well, you're not going to go out to war or do something like that. And my dad said, well, she's got a good point. Do something where you can take whatever skill you learn and transfer it into the world. So that's why I went into the communications field.
And obviously you loved it. I mean, you were there for over 20 years. So you really, what about the military did you decide? Because you have to re-enlist every 4 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
You do, unless you become an officer. So one of the things that I loved about the military is the fraternal, brotherhood of it all, right? Men and women. When I first came in, there wasn't a lot of women, right? And especially in the combat arms, there wasn't a lot of women. But it's this, we're going to take care of each other. I'm not going to let you fall and just leave you there. So I love that part of, there is a sense of loyalty, a sense of, we're going to take care of each other. It really takes a village. And as more women started coming into the combat arms, we saw that as well. But it was so reassuring, but at the same token, stepping out into civilian world, I saw the other side of that. And that's where I had to start learning to find my buddies to do my buddy check.
I like that. Is that a Marine thing, buddy check? I love that, man. That's a cool thing. I'm going to use that.
It's a military term, yeah.
General.
Yeah. If you look in business, right? And if you look in pastoring or whatever the case might be, whatever your field might be, if you're coaching somebody, you want to teach them the thing so that they'll retain it. And then you tell these two to team up and say, work on it with each other. Make sure he or she is doing the right thing. It's time for buddy checks. So everyone goes off into their corners and does buddy checks. I see that you're running a business here. So if you have two new salespeople, they team up with two senior salespeople. Okay, I'm going to teach you mentoring. Men mentoring other men, right? Women mentoring other women, or dads mentoring other dads. Number two, now that I've mentored you, find someone new and work on it with each other. Yeah. So those are some of the things, the buddy checks that can be employed in business, in school,
That's good.
And at home.
Yeah, and I think Jesus really initiated it, right? Because he calls them, teaches them, whatever, and then sends out 2 by 2. It's always twos. Always. So he always sends out with a buddy. And even scuba diving, which I've dove quite a few times, is you always go with 2. You never go alone. And so anytime you're in a high risk environment, which I think we are in terms of spirituality in this world, it's better to have a buddy that I always check in with.
100%.
So the Bible calls it discipleship. In other business, there might be mentoring, but it's the right concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it leads to success. So let's start hammering this guy. So I think now we need to step into a little bit. For some reason, I don't know why, Jeff was called into politics. And
dun, dun, dun.
Here's where it gets challenging because I know you ran once in the past and now you're running again. And actually, to be honest with you, it appears, speaking candidly, there's a good chance you do win. And I sincerely have faith that you will win. But why politics?
Yeah.
What's the, I mean...
Yeah, that's a good one.
To be honest with you, like, man, go get an ice cream store or something. Why politics? I mean, really.
You're already running 3 businesses.
Yeah,
You're
why?
a pastor. You're a family man.
There's got to be some kind of why.
There's a big reason.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of big reasons. You know, the public statement that I make as to here's my why.
Mm-hmm.
My son who's special needs, I see my wife on the phone. She's trying to convince government agencies that he still has cerebral palsy. Like it doesn't, like it, they think it goes away. Hey, he's 31. He's not 31 months. He's not, 31 days. He's 31 years old. So seeing that and understanding that it's an administrative issue that can be rectified, I need to go to the problem. And the problem is located at the state level.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's one piece.
A passion.
One piece of it.
Yeah.
Number 2 is I didn't want to do this again. I did not want to run for office again. I told my wife, this is not happening. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing it because you have to put a lot of things on hold. You have to sacrifice a lot of time, energy.
And let me clarify a couple things. When you run for political office, some people think, like, say, for example, if you make a contribution to Jeff's run for office, let's say you give $5,000, you might think, well, this is going to help pay his monthly whatever. The reality is running for public office, this is why incumbents always have a better chance of winning, you get none of that.
Zero.
Nada,
I can't
nothing.
use it for, a PB&J.
Nope.
I can't use it for my bills. I can't use it for any personal reasons.
So when you contribute to him, all of his time campaigning is donation. Pure free. So the incumbent people, that's the way the election laws are written, the people that are incumbents, they're campaigning the whole year long.
Right. And they're getting paid.
Right. So Jeff's going to be campaigning for free. So all of his time, which time is money, all of his time, if you contribute to his campaign, none of the money you give will go to him. Okay? And
it goes to my campaign.
It goes to his campaign. So he does not personally benefit at all from any of it.
And what is, so explain the incumbent for me.
So an incumbent is the person who already holds the office.
Oh, somebody that's already, like the defending champ.
The defending champ.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wow.
So now, fortunately for the particular seat he's running for, the incumbent has stepped out, and now there's somebody else that's sort of a...
Which now it's called an open seat.
Correct. Which makes better odds for Jeff to win.
Okay.
But going back to it, so I want, you gave us one why was your son. Another why is that like there has to be change in Sacramento. Anything else that like is driving you to do this?
The other why is, as men of faith, one of the things that we do is confirm the call. Right? Mm-hmm. We confirm the call. So here's point number 2. Mm-hmm. Point number 1 was buddy checks. Mm-hmm. Point number 2 is confirm the call. I'm sensing that there's something wrong, right? That, we got to fix something. So I have to confirm whether I'm the guy or is it somebody else that's got to go do that. Yeah. So that means I have to pick up the phone, prayer, and I've got to confirm the call to determine whether, Lord, will you have me do it or will you have me support somebody else to do it, right? So in everything that we do, whether it be in business, whether it be in relationships, whatever the case may be, you have to confirm the call. So I'm in prayer saying, Lord, look, people are telling me that I should go do this, but if it's not of you, then I don't want it, right? I just want to be obedient to you. You tell me to go mop floors for the rest of my life, Lord, I'm going to go mop floors for the rest of my life. But I need to confirm the call that you have made or you've placed inside of me. And if that's the case, then I'll go do it.
Yeah.
I'll go walk. So I spent quite some time in prayer, asking other people to pray to confirm the calling. And once the calling was confirmed, number 3, I took action.
Yeah.
Right? So you confirm the call, then you take action. And in that action piece, you have to also keep confirming your path, right? Lord, I'm here, but would you still have me here? Do you want me to? Okay, I'll keep doing this. I'll keep doing this till you tell me to leave. So that's the other piece of this puzzle is when I confirmed the call, God said, yeah,
Yeah.
I need you to go do that.
Yeah.
You know, in general, maybe you could jump in, Pastor Nate. You know, when somebody is in that like crossroads and they want to make the right choice for their life, and they are, you know, they are Christian, or they have that relationship, that prayer life. In what way does God speak to you? I'm sure it's different for everybody, but in maybe you could say more personally, in what way did God, like, how did he confirm to you that, yes, you should run again? In what way did he speak to you?
If I were to blindfold you, do you have kids, by the way?
Yeah.
3.
If I were to blindfold you, shut off the lights, open the door. What's your youngest's name?
Esmeralda.
And Esmeralda is outside of that door and she whispers, would you be able to tell what her voice and who it is?
Yeah.
How would you know?
I just know because
How?
Well, the tone of her voice, the way she speaks, yeah, the tune, you know, like I know exactly.
How do you know those things?
It's familiar to
I
you.
spend time with her.
Yeah.
A lot of time with her.
So because
Yeah.
I spend time with Jesus, I hear his voice. So that's how you confirm the call is if you don't spend time with Jesus, how do you know he's talking to you?
Yeah. That's good.
Right?
You're in tune. You're tuned in.
Yeah.
Proximity to the source
Yeah.
allows you to be clear in the calling. I'll say it again. Proximity to the source allows you to be clear in the calling.
That's good.
So just like you can understand your daughter is right around there, you could be blindfolded, doesn't matter. You know that's your child.
Cool.
Same with me. I know that's my Lord.
Yeah.
It's proximity.
Yeah. Same thing with her. If I was to say, Esmeralda, she knows that it's Daddy calling.
100%.
So when God speaks, you could hear Dad's voice.
I know it's Dad's voice.
That's good.
Because of my relationship with him, that's how I know it. But here's the other piece to that puzzle. Just because of my proximity to his voice and my ability to discern and hear and understand him, and he says, yes, go do it. But on the human side, it ends up in failure. We're like, well, that wasn't God's voice. That's the natural thing to say. Oh,
Yeah.
it wasn't God.
I made a mistake.
I made a mistake. But how do you know that wasn't God's plan?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I lost everything. How do you know what I mean?
What is he trying to teach you?
The key is
Good.
proximity and obedience.
For sure.
If he tells me to paint a blue fence blue 600 times, in the human form, I'm like, this is crazy, man. I'm not going to, what are you telling me to paint this fence blue? Why? I need you to paint it blue. I need you to paint it blue. Okay? You paint it blue. It makes no sense to us in the human form. But because we're looking at the tapestry from the bottom with all the strings hanging down, he sees from the top down, he sees the art.
Yeah.
All we see is the strings. So we have to be obedient because of our proximity and say, Lord, thank you for this failure. Man, what did I learn from this? What did I learn from this?
It's beautiful. You know, and I would say, like, for some people that question whether they're here from God or not, it's okay to fleece God. So I think there are ways you can, after you've heard his voice, like, it's okay to buy a fleece factory because God will still answer you. And then there comes this place where God doesn't bless just our thoughts or what we say. He has to bless what we do. And that's when you have to become a person of action. And so I think Jeff, in hearing God's voice, our Pastor Jeff, has stepped forward and God's blessing his actions. So not just that he's heard from God, that he's been close to God and knows God's voice. I'm sure there was some fleecing that went along the way, but now it's time to get out there and do it, like actually make it happen. And then so as with anything in life, you do the best that you can and give God the honor for whatever happens. So
Be
win or
content
lose,
in all things.
Yeah, whatever, win or lose, it's to the glory of God.
That's good. Thank you.
Because in me, I abided. Oh, that's so good. So that way he'll know my name.
Yeah.
He'll know me. I'm his kid. He'll know me when he's blindfolded and the room is dark. That's my kid. That's my kid that's coming into the room. Oh man, I'm getting chills because that's what I want from him. I don't need the glory or any of that other stuff, right? I just need Jesus to say, that one's mine.
That's
Okay,
good.
so to get political
Love it.
for a few minutes, so you obviously, we sort of heard a little bit of the why you went into it. So then, looking at some of the issues specific to the area you're from. So it's a district. Is it called District 36?
California Assembly District 36.
What kind of issues are specific to your area that you believe you can change?
So the district is comprised of very rural to like places like in Temecula, where it's not, right?
So part of your district is Temecula, the fringes of it.
The fringes of it, all the way down to French Valley.
Gotcha.
French Valley, Winchester, Hemet, Anza, Awanga, those pieces.
Yep.
But I also have
Indio.
I have Calexico. I have Indio. I have Needles. I have Blythe. So,
oh, wow. That's weird.
It's a huge, huge area. So
geographically huge. Might be the biggest. Is it one of the biggest in California? It's probably huge.
I think the second largest.
Yeah, that's huge.
If I go to Imperial County, the number one issue in Imperial County is access to health care, specifically Assembly Bill 918. That's the one thing that has got Democrats, Republicans, independents, no party preference, everyone in a big chaotic mess. So that's that. So the access to healthcare, because it's rural, if there's an issue, you have to go to San Diego, or you got to go to,
I see.
Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
You got to travel 2 hours plus just to get specialized care. Imagine that right now where we're at. Hey, you have this problem. Going to have to get you to travel 2 hours away, but you can't drive. So now you got to get your wife involved. Like we're in the United States, and we have places like that where people don't have quality specialized care.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I want to be able to address.
Okay, healthcare.
Here's the second thing is affordability. And affordability is a big bucket.
And you're speaking that to for having housing affordability, or you're specific, just overall?
So the big bucket of affordability starts with milk, right? Being able to afford milk. My son, who's 18, who's now at Cal State, one of the Cal States, he went and he said, before I leave, I'm going to buy you guys, I'm going to make dinner for you guys. Awesome. He's going to make dinner for us. So he was going to make these little hamburger patties. He goes and gets the turkey, the ground turkey. He gets 2 of them, like the 2-pounders. And he's like, something's wrong with these. I'm like, what is it? Are these organic? What's going on? They're $17. He's like, I can go get dollar menus at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I was like, I know. He's like, well, how's anyone supposed to afford this? I was like, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that affordability.
Yeah.
The affordability when it comes to being a business owner, the regulations, all the different rules associated with being a business owner. As a business owner, I'm you said I have 3 businesses. I actually pared down. I sold one off. I'm selling a second one off. I'm just going to keep one because to be able to focus effectively as a legislator, but as a business owner, oh my goodness, it's a challenge. So affordability, gas, all these, there's so many different issues when it comes to affordability, but yet we have bonds and taxes and all these different things. And then we're in a deficit of $48 billion. And then we're finding the legislators finding creative ways to give away more money.
Yeah.
It's like, no. In my house, we live by coupons.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can buy it with the money we have and the coupon, good. We need to go back to coupons, right? When we're running the finances for this state, we don't buy more stuff. We don't buy more help. We pare it down so that way we can live and it could be affordable.
Yeah.
And when people talk about affordable housing, what they're talking about are one of 2 different things. Hey, I want to be able to afford a place to live, rental. But when I talk about affordable housing, I'm referring to housing that I can afford. As in, I want to own a house and not have to pay $1 million for a 1-bedroom shack.
And so to understand, I'm going to use an analogy just for a second. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, explained government and sort of the private economy in this way. He said that the government, imagine 2 guys, one on the shoulders of another. The one that's carrying the other guy is the free market. And so the free market, as long as he's bigger than the guy on his shoulders, which is the government, the guy on the bottom can move around a lot. The problem that's happened in California is we've allowed the guy on the shoulders, the government, to get too big. And so when he talks about all the affordability issues, it's largely at fault in Sacramento. It really is. And people don't ever catch this, but it's exactly true. It's like my friend that moved to San Antonio. He wanted to buy a house built by Lennar Homes. in Coachella. It was going to cost around $600,000. He decided to move to San Antonio. He bought the same home, same floor plan, same builder, Lennar Homes, in San Antonio, in a nicer area than Coachella. Nothing against Coachella. And the house was half the price, $280,000. Identical home, nothing different, same builder. Now, there are certain requirements California has in terms of Title 24, solar, energy efficiency, all these other things that add on to the cost of why housing's so expensive. So you need to understand, it's not that there's a bunch of people that live in Coachella. It's that the government has come along and added a bunch of stuff onto like owning a home in terms of taxes and fees. Like it's over $100,000 for one individual home now to be built. That's the taxes and fees before you've done anything.
Wow.
And so all those costs are put on top of the house. And the reason why we have affordability issues is it's Sacramento's problem. And until that problem's fixed, and they always say, well, we're going to raise another whatever and tax some more of this and do some more. No, that's not the solution. The solution is cut down the government, minimize what they're doing, and allow people to have affordability back. Because the more the government gets involved, Reagan said it. He said, big government, small citizen, big citizen, small government. We need a smaller government and a bigger citizen in order for us all to succeed. So part of the affordability issue is quit spending all the money on a bunch of goofy stuff. And generally, Sacramento's fantastic at doing that.
Yeah.
Spending on the goofy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Far too much.
Hashtag spending on the goofy.
But a lot of it's so illogical and does very
is.
little to help anybody.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we need to cut it down. And so part of the problem we have in Sacramento is there's been a supermajority on one side of the ticket, and that supermajority has been able to just push through anything they want, which is oftentimes make the government bigger, and hire more bureaucrats that get in your way. And so, like, say, for example, what you're dealing with your son, who's 31 and has all kinds of health issues, and will be that way until the Lord takes him. You have a bunch of people trying to justify their existence in these bureaucracies. Because anything the government does, they're the worst at it. There's nothing the government does that they're the best at. Why? Because they're monopolies. Monopolies are never good. They're never good for anybody but the monopoly. And so the problem we have in Sacramento is we have a government that's a monopoly that has creating these huge bureaucracies of people that pretty much do nothing other than sharpen pencils and protect their jobs. We've got to get rid of some of that in order to make it better on the citizens and make us be able to thrive much more. And let me say this, and this is my last little rant on that. The problem with California is, and Peter Thiel actually brought this out recently. He said we have the Silicon Valley, which is primarily composed of some .com conglomerates, Google, Facebook, etc., those kind of guys, Apple. There's a few of them that are really big, these big like monopolistic entities, okay? They allow the economy of California to be skewed where it looks like we're really rich. So when we talk about the GDP, I think it's $3.4 trillion in California, it's skewed by these big businesses. And they only benefit those in the Silicon Valley and nobody else. And so what happens is it's almost like the Middle East in terms of the oil funds. California has the same problem because of a bunch of big tech people. And they skew it, which harms everybody else. So when you get into the rural communities, they're being hurt by what's happening up there. And so by having these big entities that make all this like economic growth, but it doesn't benefit hardly anybody. So we got to get that like pared down, make the government a little bit smaller and much more efficient. And I think Jeff's the guy to do that.
Yeah.
He'll be a big part of helping that, I promise you.
I have a question. So I was looking at your district. Is Eddie is that your competitor? No,
he's the incumbent, and he is no longer running. So he's currently in office, and someone new will come in. Hopefully, that's me.
Whoever's voted in.
Correct.
Okay, so one thing that me as a, let's say, not that informed on how this whole political stuff works, when somebody, like let's say you get voted in, you win, and you have this section that is like Indio, Blythe, and all that. How are you able to? Is it a team effort, or how are you able to reduce the cost of a meat patty, that you could buy? Because isn't that the cost everywhere in California?
Correct.
So you see my common sense on that?
Yes.
How do you answer that?
Relationships. That's how it works, right? So this pendulum that swings, both politically and fiscally, it's always swinging one way or another, right? When the time is right, and you've built up relationships, you can introduce bills that will allow for cutting of some of this red tape. That's the reality. Anyone who thinks that you go to Sacramento or to DC and, hey, I'm going to fix it, is sadly mistaken. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes relationships.
Yeah.
And that means going across the other side and saying, hey, let's work together.
That's good.
To make this easier for us Californians.
Got it. So it's like a domino effect. One piece of legislature that works in this district, and everybody's like, hey, look at this. Let's adopt this legislature in our district.
Yeah, we create a bill, an assembly bill or a Senate bill, and that's for all of California.
So Jeff is running for, there's 80 assembly seats, right?
80 assembly seats.
80 assembly seats in California. And so he's running for one of those assembly seats. But if like recently I drove from California into Arizona, when I passed over a river called the Colorado River and I got to a little place called Ehrenberg, the gas prices dropped by about $1. Why is that?
So $1,
like, right? There's something going on.
So they say that, big oil is hiking up prices, so on and so forth. 0.06 cents of every gallon goes to big oil. $1.36 goes to the state of California.
That's the problem.
$1.36. So if you take out $1.36, that's what our gas price would be.
Correct.
Which is probably the same price in Arizona.
Absolutely. So the problem you have in California, why our gas price is so high, the two reasons. One, our taxes. So our taxes are the highest gas taxes in the entire nation. So there's 50 states, we have the highest taxes while having the bottom 5. So in the worst states in America, the worst roads overall is California. I think we're second or third right now. So of the whole nation, we have the worst roads. There's like 1 or 2 people worse than us in like random places because of weather, but we have basically the worst roads, but we pay the highest taxes. That tells me that the taxes aren't even going to the roads. And so what we need to do is get people like Jeff in office to go up there and say, we need to relook at this so that the money that's being taxed is put to the roads, and as well the money that's being taxed is reduced. Because right now our governor keeps saying like, it's big business, they're bad, I'm going to assume they're the cause of the problem. And it's a complete lie. It's an absolute, complete fabricated lie. What's going on is they're taxing far too much on fuel. And the way you reduce a lot of prices is reducing the cost of your transportation or fuel. And so if they can cut that, and they could, by whatever, and start allocating all the money for roads off of fuel to roads, our roads would get better. So there are ways to be changed that I believe would reduce the overall cost of California. And quite simply, if they took the gas tax, for example, and said, we're going to cut it because everybody's hurting, and took 20% or something off, 25% off, it would reduce the cost. And then the second reason why our gas prices are so high, there's special blends that they say we use for fuel that are better at certain seasons, which sort of makes bottlenecks at the refineries and things like that, which, once again, it's a government-caused problem that causes problems in supply and demand. So California can fix a lot of their problems by making better choices in Sacramento. They're at fault for much of our problems.
And you would be one of those voices to make these changes happen.
Absolutely.
Got it. That's great. So can you describe also, in the beginning, you talked about how there is a war in politics right now. Can you get more into detail on that? What did you mean by that? What is it's probably a crazy spiritual warfare, what would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. As a candidate, spiritual warfare is very real, very true, so on and so forth, right? You can easily be tempted one way or another. And because of that, and if you're not cognizant of that, you can fall into the trap. You will easily fall into the trap. That goes for the CEO. That goes for the school teacher, that goes for the pastor, that goes for the janitor and the king, right? If you're not cognizant of the enemy at the gate, then you will fall. And it's not a matter of if, it'll be a matter of when. Hence why buddy checks are so important. Because this is what's going on. I'm going through this. And you're letting someone else help carry this load. So in the political space that I'm in, absolutely there is temptation to do all sorts of things. And as men, as dads, if you are telling me as a dad, as a man, that you are not tempted, I would say, nice to meet you, Jesus. Because we all are. We all fall short.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a spiritual battle, 100%. And the sooner that you come to realize that you are not perfect and that you are fighting an enemy that's at the gate. And by the way, in Genesis 3:3, I believe it is, the most cunning of creatures is in the garden, right? So God has this great garden, right? And they're in there and everything is there. And by the way, you know what's also there? The most cunning, not kind of the cunning, but the most cunning of creatures is in the garden. Because I know the most cunning of creatures is in my garden, I have to be aware that that's going on.
Yeah.
I have to be aware in every conversation that I have, whether it's someone of the opposite sex at business, right? I don't know what their lifestyle is or how the enemy is in their life. So I have to be aware of that. Pastor Rick used to always tell us, if you're in an elevator and it's you and another woman, you step out. Let her take the elevator. But I'm good. I don't cheat. I don't have to worry about that. And Pastor Rick says, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You are being aware that the enemy is all around, and you just take yourself out of that situation. So for me and for in the political realm, it is very easy. It is very easy to stray from your beliefs. I mean, that goes in anything, right? But it's also very important that you recognize the enemy and you respect the enemy, because the minute that you don't respect the enemy is the minute that you become complacent, and is the minute that you let your guard down. So that's what I was referring to in that spiritual battle, right?
That's good. How can a person best support you? So if somebody believes in what you're saying, believes in your values, believes in the mission that God has you on, what's some of the best ways a person can support you?
Number one, after this video, right, where it's on Instagram or Facebook or X or Tickety Talk, or whatever it is that this is being transmitted on, one of the best ways to be able to support and understand is by following me on social media at Gonzalez, Gonzalez, the number 4 Assembly, at Gonzalez 4 Assembly. You can go to my website and you can also do that, gonzalez4assembly.com. Follow what's going on, because that's the quickest way for me to communicate in mass. Yeah, that's the first way. So I should see this huge uptick with all of your followers,
for sure.
Right?
All the young ones,
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Number 2 is get involved. Go to my campaign website and say, I want to be a part of change. Right? I want to be a part of doing something bigger than me. Get involved. So you can do that through my campaign website. And number 3, and this is kind of the fuel of the campaign, and that's donate. Right? Donate to the campaign. You already heard that. I don't keep the money. The money doesn't go in my pockets. We use that money for campaign flyers, campaign materials, the website hosting, all the campaign office, all the different things. So you can donate as much as $5,500 per person, or less than that. But you can do that also through the website. Those are the ways that you can get involved. Or you can just get up and run for office.
Yeah.
Run for office. If your values are like my values, then I want to encourage you to go and do that.
Well said.
Because we need more people with these type of values, not perfection, but these type of values that are willing to take these values to every corner of the earth.
That's good.
And the campaign website is the same website that you mentioned right now, right?
www.gonzalez4assembly.com.
Okay, so then I'm gonna ask you to do something, and I'm gonna give you a name, and I want you to try to give a 1-sentence your opinion of this person. So we're gonna go through some big politicians.
I feel like we should have some music playing.
Yeah.
No whammies.
So I'm going to give you a name, and to the best of your ability, a sentence about this person, your perspective of them. So, I mean, this is just your perspective of a person. So we'll start with a big one who's the most famous guy in the world right now. Just a sentence, Donald J. Trump.
Businessman goes against the grain.
Kamala Harris.
Lifelong politician that is opposite of my values.
There you go. Elon Musk.
Quirky genius.
Yeah. Gavin Newsom.
Lost in the sauce of is completely out of touch with the average working person.
Yes. Absolutely.
How about the vice president that
Tim
Donald
Walz.
Trump?
Oh,
Donald
no, which
Trump.
one? Lance.
Yeah, that Donald Trump chose as his
J.D.
running mate.
Vance.
J.D.
Vance.
Yeah.
Marine. Hurrah.
A fellow Marine.
Look, if he's a Marine, my expectation of him is very high.
Yeah.
That he'll believe in honor, in courage, in commitment.
Yeah.
Right? He'll believe in morals and in being ethical. He'll do the right thing when it's not popular.
Yeah.
That's my expectation of him.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to be, sway with the wind. I expect him to do the right thing when nobody else is looking.
Yeah, well said.
How about Jesus Christ?
Come on.
Man, my daddy.
Yeah.
I strive to follow and model my life like him,
Yeah,
but I'm far from him.
for sure. What about Rick Warren?
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
He is authentic. I know him privately and I know him publicly, and it's the same person. And he, literally, I've never met anyone that loves Jesus more than him.
Wow.
I don't know anybody.
That's good.
And it's obvious. It oozes from him.
Yeah. That's good. What about your friend Ian Weeks? He's running for
Running for
Congress. Yeah, D.C.
That's my partner in the trenches.
That's good.
He's a Jesus follower, partner in the trenches, and he is a hard-working guy.
Your political opponent that's running against you right now. I think what's his name? Is it Acuna?
Joey Acuna.
Joey Acuna, yeah.
And my sentence for him is, he is an anti-police. Government wants to run your kids and chooses power over people.
Wow. Well said.
That's pretty crazy, by the way. I was watching this trans teacher, and he said, or she said, I had 30 students on my first day of class, but once they looked at me, the parents, I went from 30 students to 24 students the next day. And I think that's not fair. I think they're very judgmental. And I was like, I would have been one of those parents that pulled my kid out of that classroom.
Absolutely.
because the trans teacher was basically saying, that it's not right that people judge me like that. They should give me a chance to teach my kids, teach their kids. But then I'm thinking, it's about values. What values do I hold that I wouldn't want a trans teacher to? What is the teacher gonna teach my kids?
Yeah, and I don't know. We've said before, children are a stewardship from God to the parents, not the government. We allow the government to be a part of it, but the stewardship of a child is for the parents. So God gave children to parents, not to the government. And the problem with a lot of teachers that are exactly like that, unfortunately, those kind of people don't have any kids, so they want to indoctrinate our kids. And it's up to us to protect our kids' minds. I had this long conversation with my 11-year-old daughter yesterday about it, all the values that are in this world right now that are not of God and are opposed to my Christian beliefs. And I'm going to be the loudest voice in her life because I can. Yeah. And so anytime a person like that tries to...
Because
we have to be. They're our stewardship.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody wants to come and try to sort of take our kids' minds or poison our kids' minds or brainwash them in the wrong way, those children are a stewardship of us, not of the government, not of a school teacher, not anything like that. They're our children. So I will always be the loudest voice in my child's life. And if my kid was in that class and I walked up to the school and seen that teacher, I would take my kid home at that point and put him somewhere else. They would never be in that atmosphere because they're my children. They're my stewardship.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
And to me, any politician that is in favor of the government could choose better for your kids than and not let me know as a dad, I'm against that.
AB 1955 already passed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It already passed, and that's where we have to. Here's my belief on education. We need to get back to the basics of education. Right, you go around the world, and people are beating us around the world when it comes to education. When a kid graduates the 12th grade, they should be able to read at a minimum 12th grade level.
You would expect.
That's common sense.
Yeah.
That is not the case right now. 8th grade, I believe, is what they're doing. And in some cases, 3rd grade level. I want them to read it at the graduating level, 12th grade. I want them to do math at the basics, 12th grade math. And I want comprehension at the basic 12th grade comprehension. That's in general speaking, right? Special needs and all that aside. That's the expectation that we have. We have focused in California so much so on the political in schools and in education that we've lost our children to this, and we need to get back to reading and writing, arithmetic, those basic core principles. And by the way, learning other languages, music, art, science, technology, all these different things, right? Create those minds versus indoctrinate them into whatever something else is.
Yeah.
I don't want to indoctrinate them to be Republican or Democrat or liberal or whatever. I want them to be good citizens that have an ability to, once they graduate, to succeed and be contributing members of society. That's what I want out of our kids. And right now, we need to pay our teachers better. These are the ones that can follow this, right? Pay our teachers better. We need to get more programs in schools because unfortunately some parents work 2-3 jobs and they can't do that. So we need to invest in education, not create this political arena of indoctrination in education.
Yeah, so the indoctrination needs to stop and the education needs to start. And there's something to be said within like school choice. There's a lot of things that we can do to create some competition where our education system becomes better than what it is. But as it is right now, even Steve Jobs acknowledged the problem with California's school system is the unions. So the teachers' unions is the problem. And you've got to fix it somehow there. So you've got to play hardball with a lot of them. I don't know that in a lot of areas the public schools are doing a great job. I think right now we rank the worst in all the states for education outcomes. I think it's at age 25, like we're the lowest. So we're not doing a good job. So something has to change. So whatever it is, something has to and needs to change in our education system for sure.
And I was listening to a preach this week, and he was talking about how church and politics shouldn't be together because he was saying that you could create a law against pedophilia, for example, or a law against hate crimes or whatever, but you can't change the person's heart. Only Jesus can. And I love the fact that like Ian was in the interview that we did, and then you're mentioning the same, that Christians are getting into the political realm as a mission field because they might, and he was talking about how he even wants to minister to Donald Trump, and I think that's powerful. I think that's really how real change is going to happen when a politician that has the values that are against me, against the values that I've learned through church or in the Bible, and then here comes Pastor Jeff coming in to the political realm and is able to minister to these Democrats. I mean, it's not about, because you as a pastor, you're going to come in and you're not going to be like, completely, in a fight against these Democratic leaders that don't share the same values as us. You're going to be coming in and seeing a way how you could minister even to this gentleman and see how Jesus and God could use you to enter into his heart, and then the inside work happens so that now, since he's already in office, he could make a change with the newfound relationship with Jesus Christ. Sure. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, for sure.
To me, it's very clear. The Great Commission is, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, right? Go therefore. So from the pulpit, my job is to say, you, John Doe, Jane Doe, I want you, there is trouble in Samaria, right? There is trouble in Judea. There is trouble in Sacramento, right? There's trouble in these places, and this is what they're doing, right? They're doing all this stuff and hedonism and crazy stuff that's going on. I need you to go there and share that, right? Because we, as Christ followers, that's what we are to do. Go therefore to the ends of the earth. So a pastor that says that they keep politics out of their preaching is missing the great commandment. Because we are to instruct disciples to go therefore. We have to identify the issue. Here's the problem. Here's what the Bible says. And now you got to go therefore and bring and plant the seeds, right? By the way, the problem right now is in Sacramento. And let me tell you what some of the problems are, 1 through 10. I need some of you to be missionaries and get attacked and get stoned and all this other stuff. Stoned as in throw stones at them, not the other one.
Yeah.
And I need you to go therefore and make disciples.
It is a mission field, the political realm.
It is absolutely a mission field.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So when they say I want to keep church and state apart, they're missing the point of the great commandment and the great commission to go therefore.
Yeah.
So I really push back on, well, I'm afraid of my 501c3. Well, let me tell you something. I'm afraid of Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that if I stay silent on these things, because he gave me this time, this talent, and these treasures to be able to do that, to go therefore. So I have to go therefore. So if there's pastors out there listening, remember, your job is to instruct the flock, the herd, to be able to say, in love, go therefore, right?
Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah.
I do want to make sure we say this. I know I'm not voting over in that area, but I wholeheartedly endorse Jeff Gonzalez for the position he's running for, and my prayer is that you win, and I actually do believe you're going to win. So I'm excited that you will be in Sacramento next January.
Thank you.
I fully endorse you and pray and believe and will support that you will win as well.
Father's voice endorses you.
The Father's voice.
Stamp.
Dun, dun, dun. I love it.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say as we come to a close?
No, first of all, I thank you and the folks that are watching, listening, whether it be in your car or in your closet or your private space.
Yeah.
Continue to tune in because there's engaging conversations that take place, and sometimes one of these things might hit you, and one of these things might say, "Oh, that's what I needed to hear."
Yeah.
Right? I needed to hear this. Go therefore and make disciples. I needed to know that when I go to someone's house because I'm an electrician, that's my mission field. Right? Because I'm a janitor, that's my mission field. Because I'm a teacher, a CEO, whatever the case may be, that is my mission field, right? Don't neglect that, right? And as a father, your primary mission field is your family.
For sure.
So continue to do the good work, gentlemen, and always remember that as dads, that is our primary mission field.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Brought to you by,
Thank you, Jeff.
Coca-Cola.
Blessings to everybody.
God bless you.